At some point in the digital age of boss babes, new money, and ambitious rookies, we stopped consulting our village's wisest. Women have been the heartbeat of the world within their respective communities, workforces, and families since the dawn of time. They are the magic makers, the peacemakers, and the ass kickers. Let's celebrate them with the matriarchy party. Hello, and welcome back to Matriarchy Party. That's the first time I've sang it, so that's saying something. It's December now. I have such a treat for you all. We have such a talented, cool woman today, Emilia Purchio. And you're giggling on the Zoom. It's funny, like watching your face here. We're in different places, so that's new for you. But she is a consultant and an events powerhouse and has worked in the entertainment industry for so many years, first at Trimark, then Lionsgate, then CW for 17 years. That's not nothing. Holy Hannah. I feel like that's many lifetimes. Doing events. We met through a mutual friend at a party and just hit it off. And now we're 90% Instagram friends. But I hope to see you IRL very soon. But the rest is history. Amelia, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. This is so much fun. It's the first podcast I've ever done. So bear with me.
Well, great. It's the first podcast I've ever done, really. So we're doing great. I am so excited to hear more about your story here, hear more about you're so close with your mom, but to hear about your matriarchs. But I guess let's kick it off that way. Who is your matriarch and what's the relationship she is to you? Which maybe, spoiler alert, I might have just said it, but.
Well, matriarchs, I feel like, are so important to all of us because they shape who we are. Sometimes we emulate things they do, things they have taught us over the years. So I think it's so important to have a strong matriarch in your life. Mine is my mother, Leona. Some call her Lee. And
what a woman.
She's a woman, she just turned 80 years old and she acts like she's, 17, which I love.
Is it 18 going on 80?
I'm the mother sometimes.
Or 80 going on 18?
Yeah, exactly. 80 going on 18. Let's go with that. And she's currently on a cruise ship in Europe somewhere.
As she should be.
As she should be. Uh-huh. And, she would go zip lining when she was in her 70s.
When she was 16, not 18.
Yeah. So
I love it. She sounds like she lives such an adventurous life and is so active. And you two together are so fabulous. I feel like when you post pictures, I'm like, glamour is in the genes.
Aww.
Must have learned so much from her. I can't wait to hear more. That's so exciting. Well, I always started off by when we think of a matriarch, we think of a woman who's the head of their family, community, or organization. Mm-hmm. When in your life did you feel like you had to demonstrate those traits, whether by necessity or not?
Well, I think for me, probably in high school, first of all, when I ran track, which is so silly because it was my first little peek into what that could be to be a leader. My senior year, I was the head of our 4x100 relay team. And we had a freshman and a sophomore and whatever, but they kept looking to me. And I was sort of the leader of that team. Yeah. I remember I got us all matching socks or different things. And they were like, oh my gosh, Amelia, it was my first little peek. And meanwhile, I was a kid myself.
Sure.
And then of course, over the years, as you work your way up the ladder in, corporate entertainment, and then you have younger people coming saying, oh my gosh, I would love to sit and talk with you and learn more about, what it is you do. I'm like, me? What do you mean? And, then you start to realize, wow, I have years of wisdom and experience to share. And I'm happy always to sit with somebody that's curious
like now
about what I do. Exactly. But, more people wanting to intern, or there was a mentorship program. And And our HR person said, "Oh, Emilia, you had so many people that requested you to be their mentor." I'm like,
You're like, who, me? I'm just a teen. I'm just
yeah,
a teen on the track team.
exactly.
Imposter syndrome, right?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you've always had such cool jobs. I feel like that makes sense of like, you're doing events for the coolest, biggest. I mean, everybody wants to work at entertainment on TV, especially if you don't.
Mhm.
If you do and you have for a long time, you obviously, there's something about you that keeps you in it. You're a
Right.
crazy person. But I mean,
You're
it's so
crazy.
alluring to want to work in that industry. So especially doing events, like, which has been the majority of your career has been event-based, right? So
Mhm.
do you feel like, obviously in high school, then that was such a defining moment, being on the track team and really feeling like, oh, I need to rise up and like, there has to be a leader and I am the leader, like it or not. And I have to wrangle these girls. But did you feel like that was a common theme then throughout your just career?
Honestly, Courtney, I never really thought about it until this second. And it's so random that I just brought that up. But I think sometimes I don't give myself enough credit. But yeah, looking back, definitely, I think those are things that just sort of naturally came to pass.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense.
Well, and knowing a little bit about your mom, it feels like that's something that was probably so ingrained in like the way that we'll get into Lee more, but just like exuding confidence and leading in the way that you live. But did you feel like there was a time where like through that leadership, you accomplished something like really hard that you were, I mean, because I mean, we have a little theme of imposter syndrome popping up here, but you're obviously so capable and experienced and talented. Do you feel like there was an instance where you like,
I mean, there was definitely one year we were doing our upfront. We were brand new CW, and we were doing our upfront in New York at Madison Square Garden. We were still doing it at the Garden. And it's a huge production with union and labor and so many elements that go into it with production, talent, etc. And my team would handle sort of all the logistics surrounding that. And, you know, that was the year where it was almost a make or break moment for me. And it was also a massive learning experience for me. I had given a lot of the vendors and things. I was still, you know, I still had somebody over me at that point, and I was pretty young. And I had given a lot of the vendors, hair and makeup people, different people, my contact information, which learning lesson, don't do that. Delegate so that it's not all coming to one source.
Especially while you're like in the moment problem solving, you can't be like taking calls and texts.
In the moment, and you can't physically be all those places at once. The Garden is huge. And anyway, so that year we had the Pussycat Dolls performing. We had a show that was taping in South Africa that we were doing like a live link satellite.
Ooh, stressful.
And also we had brought in these sweet little baby animals. We had a couple of zebras, a couple of baby giraffes.
This sounds like a made up,
you know, so
event.
it was literally a circus.
Yeah.
And of course these zebras had done Vogue, but then they were scared to walk out on the stage because it was really shiny. So production was trying to carpet and come up with other things. The giraffes were supposed to do the red carpet. They were only 11 feet, but we had to make sure, you know, there was enough space. Well, we get there. Apparently, giraffes kick at a 90-degree angle. Would have been great to know that the day before.
Yeah.
We didn't have enough width between the reporters on the red carpet and where the talent was going to walk. So, you know, all these things were just, okay, now what? Now what? And the Pussycat Dolls, some of them went into the wrong dressing rooms. And then one of their dogs peed everywhere. And I mean, it was like
it's chaos.
And there was a restroom, you know, where I knew that was kind of off the beaten path. And I just, you know, went in there and I took a minute and I thought, either A, I'm going to have a massive panic attack and they're going to find me in here hours later on the floor, or B, I got to get up. I got to just go into just mode and go figure all this out. And I picked B. Like I went out, I just crushed it. And
yeah, you did.
I mean,
how long is an event like that? Like, I'm sure you're there all day and it's probably a few hour event at night, but you're there planning for months and months. But like, how long is a day at work for that? Something.
Well, the upfront day, because the CW, we used to do an affiliate dinner the night before, and upfront day, we'd usually arrive on site 6:30, 7 a.m. and be in house. The upfront presentation itself is 1 hour. Mm-hmm. So it's all this chaos, 1 hour, 45 minutes to an hour, and exit some kind of, whether it's giving everybody pretzels for my crazy ex-girlfriend, we've got to can we have pretzel carts lined up on the sidewalk outside, New York City Center? Sure we can. And can we have them branded and whatever? And luckily I worked with such phenomenal people. It's not just a one person thing by any means.
What does it mean to do events for a company like CW? Like I'm sure every day, every month, every quarter is very different, but like, what does that job entail? Or just one of the many jobs?
I mean, in terms of like the actual events we would do, or
just like, what was your job there? Like, what does it mean to say, I do events for this, or
jack of all trades?
Yeah, I'm like,
events sort of shifted over the years, but at the CW, we reported into marketing. And so most event teams report into PR. And for us, because we were a smaller company, good news and bad news, but I thought it was all good news, was we literally worked with every single group in-house. So it was almost like we were an in-house party planning group. So it could be anything from, we're going to do a brown bag lunch, a learning lunch that we would do, and we'd invite different speakers. And that was all through our head of marketing. And we do, lunch and a presentation, get it all set up for a speaker for 50 to 75 people in-house. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like bring in Subway or pizza.
Yeah.
All the way up to things like the upfront, things like the iHeartRadio Music Festival. We used to, iHeart put on the show and CW would broadcast the show and also live stream. Back in the day, they would do, a festival like on the Saturday. They do, and anyway, we would send that.
Wow. Every day is a new adventure. I mean.
Well, so what we did was, my group's part of that was we had 200 tickets in our contract. So we would use that as an opportunity to entertain affiliate GMs from all over the country, advertising clients. We'd bring talent and parent company executives, Warner Brothers and CBS, CW. And so it was once each group would go and say, who's coming? Then once we had the yeses, my group, hey, great, we're so excited to have you. And then we had to set up, like a whole site where you could go in and then you'd pick, oh, great, I want double beds or I want a bed. And here's my airline number. And here's all, all the logistics, bringing them there. What's the welcome? What's the cocktail party? Dealing with the hotels to get a VIP entrance for them. How do you make somebody feel special at a huge hotel casino in Las Vegas? Right?
Right. I mean, and there's just, of course, and so many other peoples, but you want people that are invited. It's a large group, but you're everybody needs to feel surprised and delighted and like really showered, I'm sure, with
Yeah. And we'd take over the pool the next day. They'd let us put our logo in the pool and
Cool.
do these cabanas. Every group had cabanas, and then we had a massage cabana. Because over the years we'd go, people don't really like to leave and go to the spa because that's like a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
Let's bring the spa here. I
Brilliant.
mean, it's not rocket science.
Yeah.
It's just
It's
thinking,
learning and like
oh,
being a student going through and
yeah,
problem solving, really. I mean, it sounds
yeah.
like technology has evolved in a way. I mean, just with what like the systems that you were using for guest list management. But
Mhm.
I wanted to ask like how you thought technology evolving has changed. I mean, the business, women's lives in particular.
It's massive. I mean, when I would first go to New York for upfronts, I was at UPN and we would work at a CBS BlackRock in the city. And we didn't have, maybe I had a Blackberry at one point, but we certainly didn't have laptops. You had a desktop and you would sit at the office until, I don't know, sometimes 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night.
Because you can't go home and just work on your phone or laptop.
No. And then it
Oh,
got
wow.
to, oh, we have a Blackberry and okay, this is cool, but I can't access my files. I can't, there are certain
Right.
things I need access to, right? And we were always working on these documents. So while you could answer an email, we were still tethered to the computer.
Oh,
And then it was, oh, okay, now we have our own laptop, but not my files. So, you know, slowly but surely we ticked until, getting your iPhone and to the point where I would be getting my hair blown out and working on my laptop and looking at the guest list and doing all those things.
yeah.
So, I don't have kids, but, for the moms that I do know in entertainment, I know how huge it is for them to be able to go pick up their kids, get home, and then log back on after a little bit of
Yeah.
chaos. And that's life changing for so many people if you think about it.
Well, even if you just want to be working in your sweatpants at home alone, you're like, I've been here at the office 14 hours. I want to go home and make some food
Yeah.
and be with my dog.
Yeah. Or you have a dinner. So you go to the
Yeah.
dinner, with whoever, and you come back
Log back on.
and, freedom. But also in that,
I mean, then there's the opposite side.
then there's the opposite side, which is you're constantly, and I would roll over in bed at, 4 o'clock in the morning and just be,
Doom scrolling.
just checking my
Yeah.
emails. And it's like, Amelia,
It's too easy to do
emailed
it.
you at 3
Yeah.
o'clock in the
We're
morning.
like, but if I get ahead of it.
I mean, rarely.
Sometimes.
Mhm.
But I'm like, a friend of mine says it's PR, not ER. And it's such a good reminder because I'm like,
okay.
yeah, I'm always like, we're not saving lives, everybody. Like
We are, though.
we are inspiring so many, but also like get your sleep, everybody. Well, and I think what's interesting to know, like, it's very much your party at these events. Like you need to be the hostess with the mostest. So you're like, I got to get ready too. So, I mean, to be able to like multitask and be getting the blowout, as silly as that sounds, it's like, you need to be ready for
and
the
it is
event.
funny because it is so silly, but every single party, I felt like I always would dress sort of thematically to match the decor, in the color tone or whatever. And it was my inner Leona coming out, my
Oh,
mom.
yeah.
She used to host these huge galas for things like the Oakland Museum, the Eden Hospital Foundation, various charities in the Bay Area. And, she would be the chair of these things and people would come and do, props and plan and we'd cut out confetti. I think like my, campfire girl troop, she had us all over there.
What do you Troop Beverly Hills, huh?
Yeah, it was, I guess.
I love it.
She had us making confetti. But yeah, so again, I would feel like it was my party, even though it wasn't.
I mean, it wasn't about you, but it was about you. I mean, I feel like bottom line is like, it must have been a joy to do. You have to be passionate. I think it's like finding the thing that you love to do, because I mean, what is the quote? Then you'll never work a day in your life. That's not true. You're working very hard. It's still work, even though it's like, it feels like we're in fantasy life working in entertainment. But I also feel like it has to be joyful. I don't know why I just made a thumbs up over here. It's so funny.
I like that.
I don't know.
You know, 100%. It's definitely joyful. And I was very lucky, and I am very lucky to be doing things like that. You know, my father said years ago, I know this is matriarchy, but, you know, 1 second for the patriarchy, even though Taylor Swift wouldn't like that. You know, he said, look, he was a judge and, you know, lawyer, mediator. And, you know, my mom was like, you should go to law school. And my dad said, look, you have to find what lights your fire, what makes you want to get out of bed, because you're the one who has to get up every day and go do that. So find something you are passionate about, find something you love, and do that. And it really resonated with me. And, you know, I didn't know anybody really out here. I had 2 friends that lived in LA. One would fax me. I said, fax, kids. The UTA job list. And, you know, it was something that I was passionate about and pursued so much because that's what I wanted to do. I didn't have anybody to say, oh, yeah, kid, we'll hire you for the summer. You know, I didn't know anybody. All my contacts that could have helped me really were in politics and law. And so anyway, that advice is so
important. It's so
incredible.
True, especially from any parents. I feel like so many parents are putting the pressure to be the lawyer, doctor, etc. And so to be that, what a breath of fresh air to say, like, you have to be the one doing this job. So if it lights your fire, like, pursue that. Like, I can't be the one to tell you to do the thing if you're not going to be fulfilled by it.
But also, he was so much older than my mom. You know, he was
so even a different time,
1915. So if you think about that kind of mentality of somebody from, like, in a time machine, I guess it's like, what would your grandfather say?
Not that.
And really, because I feel like, you know, a parent is so in the thick of it for most people.
Yeah,
our
that's
parents
true.
Are younger. But when you're towards the end of your life, you're reflecting back going, none of this shit matters.
No, I mean,
do what you like. I feel like maybe that played a part in it. I don't know.
You're right. I mean, I think that's the grandparents' like biggest joy is to do things differently than maybe they raised their children, or grandkids can get away with a little bit more than your kids do. I mean, my grandparents are so supportive of everything. Yeah. Do they understand what I do for work? Not 100%. A lot of people don't. But I think, like, I guess I was thinking of like being born in 1915. That is not the norm mentality. It's like, pull yourself up by your bootstraps and make money. And especially as a woman, I feel like provide for your family in whatever way that is, as that's homemaking even. Like I'm thinking that mentality. It's not even like go and charge and forge your own path and like pursue your passions and dreams. It's definitely not most people born in 1915. I guess that was my point. But you're right in the term.
I think, you know, he also knew a lot of powerhouse women in his lifetime, which again, I think in that era, you're right, it's kind of a rarity.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Such great advice. I love it.
Yeah, for
How
sure.
Special. Well, let's talk about Lee. Let's get in there. Were you always very close growing up? And do you have siblings?
My father had 6 children before me with his first wife. And that's a whole other
that's another podcast.
for another day.
Okay.
No, I mean, it was like the Italian Catholic thing. New York came to California. Same with my mom. New Yorker came to California, and they met in California. But he and his first wife, from what I know, were just sort of living on opposite ends of the house, and they'd come together for Sunday dinner with the kids. It was the very like American dream, white picket fence. But on the inside,
It was like on the outside, it looked that way.
And again, I wasn't, a part of that, but I haven't seen any of my siblings since my dad's funeral. And now that was
long ago? Yeah.
in the late 90s. So
Wow.
I know.
That's wild.
But my mom was like this young, feisty, just
still is
force of a woman. And there were things that she had wanted to do, but didn't quite pursue, when she was coming up, in a very interesting, this is my Italian on both sides background. Her side was the extra naughty side. So, the mentality was a little bit different. And it was, you should, become a wife, become a mother. I think she said, you were a teacher or maybe a nurse. And again,
those were the options for her, you're saying?
Well, that was sort of like when she was coming up.
And what does she want to do?
She always had an eye for fashion, and
not surprised.
She had thought about, doing like a clothing business. She used to do all of her own. She would design her own suits, and she would love for the trim on the cuffs and the collar to match the shoes. And, it was a very,
calculated design process there.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. So, and she was always creative. And so that creativity came out through, doing and hosting these large galas. One year I woke up, I was running for vice president of my class in the 5th grade. And I woke up to all this glitter, and she had made all these campaign signs, for my campaign with big letters and glitter. And, I woke up, she had like bags. She was like, look what I made. Are you okay?
Well, who's surprised you ended up being paid in your career to like make these big splashes moments for huge companies? Like sounded like event planning and like creating a moment was ingrained in you. That's so cute. Did she work inside the home or outside of the home?
So my mom, was just a stay-at-home mom, basically.
Not just. That's really hard.
Well, not just. She was a stay-at-home mom.
But that was her focus. Got it.
That was her focus. And, watching her light up when she had these projects was incredible. And just, watching her, she'd come home, and my parents would come home from some black tie thing, and she'd have on a fur coat, and it would be cold from the outside, and they'd smell like, smoke and perfume. She didn't smoke, but just in the rooms back then, people just stood there, I guess, and smoked
away. It was a different time.
If you look at my 10th birthday party, it would be like somebody would call a hotline, because we were all at this restaurant and all the parents were just there literally smoking in the same room as us. I was like, oh my God. Anyway, I'm getting off topic.
No, I love it.
But
what like a vivid memory of just like seeing her I mean, because you said you wanted to have a fashion line, come in with like such a glamorous fur and then those vivid smells. I mean, I think just like remembering the way that your parents smelled, it's such a core memory of like when you were little, even if they're still here, but you're just like, oh, this fragrance they wore, or the smell of their lipstick, or the smell of like the cologne that your dad wore, just like my dad smelled like cigarettes too. And you're like, oh, wow, Camel cigarettes. I remember it like on his hands. Like, and it's just
but somehow it
nostalgic.
smelled good to you.
Of course.
You know?
It's like, it's the people that you feel the most loved and safe with, hopefully. But so she prioritized marriage and kids and did not have her fashion line. And
I don't know if that was what she prioritized so much as that's just sort of the way life flowed for her.
Got it.
I think I don't want to use generation as an excuse by any means, but I think sort of the mentality, it wasn't like, oh yeah, no, you should do your career. You should do this. Sure. It was like, this is sort of what everyone does.
Yeah. It's a thing you do.
Period.
You get married, you have kids, take care of the kids. Your dreams get put aside.
Right. And I think, you know, I mean, she was really young too when she met my dad, when she was 26 years old. And
he had already had his other family and life at that point, like had more, I guess, life experience in that way of.
She looked like a Sophia Loren.
Yeah.
And could cook like an old Italian lady.
Amazing. And dressed like a hot babe, it sounds like, because all of her creativity was fueled, as much as she wasn't pursuing that as her career, she very much was still making clothes, making campaign signs for her beloved daughter, like making creative meals. I feel like she fostered those like outlets into maybe hobbies or just part of her day-to-day life.
I mean, my Aunt Val came to live with us for a little while, her younger cousin. And, you know, she was also an incredible cook. And at one point she was doing catering for like the Atari Jet and some different, you know, groups or whatever. And yeah, I remember one time my mom's like, I put on my roller skates, which doesn't seem safe at this point, and helped her make lasagna for like 100 or 200 people or something like that for some event. I mean, from scratch, like rolling out the dough with the paper on the, you know, and the.
That's a core memory.
And the flour and cutting out little raviolis with the cordial glasses.
So that was just like an average, just like a day. Oh, Aunt's coming over and we're going to just cater for hundreds. We're just making from scratch. I mean,
it was just this
no big deal.
Blip, but that's, you know, something that was fun.
I love it. Do you feel like, I mean, cooking and sewing were two of her favorite things to do, but what do you feel like the defining, I was going to say outlets or any defining moments of her life then?
Defining moments. Well, and to clarify, she doesn't sew. I mean, she could sew on a button.
Oh, she would design
she
her
used to,
and have somebody else make.
Yeah, and have things made.
Oh, okay. Still takes a lot of
I think a defining moment for my mom was losing my dad when he died. And I think
How long were they married when he passed in the 90s, you said?
Probably 24 years at that point. Which now doesn't seem that long.
No, I mean,
because
it's a long time.
I think about my friends who have now been married 20 years and you're just like, wow, you know, it goes like that.
Yeah.
But I think a defining moment for her was realizing, okay, now what? What's for my next chapter? Yeah. And she actually went into business with a different cousin
Amazing.
who used to work as a VP at a candy company out of New York. And they moved to Florida for a while. And she had candy stores. And that was sort of the next,
That's so cool. Something for her then. She got to choose her own path.
Yeah, it was gifts. And, you know, she would have this incredible wrapping station and she'd wrap things. And there was always a hot glue gun and flowers, and it was good.
Do you feel like that was like a biggest accomplishment of her life?
I think her biggest accomplishment was all the charity work she did, to be honest. It's hard to weigh. It's like,
well, I mean, yeah, not biggest, I guess, like, doesn't have to be a tier, like it could be a tier, not a thing, but tell me about the charity work that she did.
Well,
or
like
does.
the big galas and things that they did.
Like a specific organization that she really worked with?
Yeah. Let's see. There was the Oakland Museum, and they raised a lot of money for the Oakland Museum, the Eden Hospital Foundation, and also the Emergency Shelter Program, which was one. And she was really passionate about that because she had, unfortunately grown up in a house where there was domestic abuse. And, it was a really tough thing. And so, we would be driving somewhere, and there'd be a woman on the side of the road fighting with, her boyfriend or something. And he'd be kind of, grabbing her arms or doing something. And my mom, she was never a look the other way type of a person. She would like point the car and, flash her lights and honk. And then if the girl walked away, she'd say, do you need a ride? I know of a place you can go.
Oh, wow.
And it actually happened more than once. And I was in LA driving years later with a friend, and I saw something. I was on Fountain, and I looked in one of those like little garage, like carport things. And I saw this guy had this woman kind of up against the wall, and they were yelling. And I did the same thing, because you have to be careful. You don't want to go like get into their fight. But I blinked the lights and I honked my horn, and it kind of broke them up. And then she was, walking down the street, and my friend and I were like, do you want to ride? We can take you somewhere. And she didn't want anything to do with it. But, and at least in the moment, it
diffuse that situation.
That
oh my gosh.
Just now.
Well, I mean,
so
I can't say that I've ever run into that, but like I feel like your mom, there was a reason that she was in those instances, like because she was so passionate and able to diffuse so many of those situations, and then like got passed on to you that like, we're not standing for that. Like whether or not you grew up with that around you being the norm or not, that's
exactly
really powerful.
And just being brave. And, it's a scary world these days, you never know. But at the same time, to turn a blind eye on something is just,
especially in this day and age, it's like, that is such wise wisdom too. Like, there's no excuse to turn a blind eye, especially when it's something that's relatively low lift for you that can mean life or death for a person like that. So important. What do you admire most about your mom?
I admire her kindness. My grandmother, I didn't know my grandmother, her mother, but my mom always talked about her kindness and her beauty and her sort of passion for things in life. And I see it so much in my mom. If my mom loves you, she loves you. She's like your ride or die. But if she decides she's
if
done,
you're not that lucky,
she's done. And it's like, that woman, I swear, she's old school. It's like, bye.
Just lose my number, cutting you off.
Yeah, legit. But her kindness, and I've watched her sort of, I don't think empathy can be taught, but I was always extremely empathetic growing up. And I'm wondering if some of that is from her.
Oh, no doubt.
Like,
well, just in the scenario you just gave with the woman on the side of the road when you were with your friend, like that's ingrained in you, and just looking out for others. She's
just very thoughtful, and she goes out of her way, and she'd say, oh, so-and-so, I'm going to send them some stamps because they said they liked, you know, Ruth Bader Ginsburg. I'm like, RPG, yeah, you know. And she's like, oh, can you mail these out for me? I'm like, wait, how am I involved in this? But her kindness comes at a price, which is me. Yeah. But I'm joking. But she, like, these people had a fire at their house, and my mom didn't even know them. They were a friend of a friend, and they were going to stay at this friend's house. And my mom said, Emilia, we have to do something. And so she made a bunch of pasta or something and just brought it over. So they had something to eat.
That's being a good human. Oh my gosh, you don't have to do that. And it's just,
it's just
caring about people.
How would I feel if this happened to me? And what can I do to make it a little less hideous for them right now? Or just something as silly as, you know, we'd go to her house. She lives in Palm Desert. And I get there and my little, I have a Pomeranian, Mia, and my mom's like decorated her food bowl area with like a pumpkin for Halloween, or
it's her grandpup.
It's her my poor mother.
Yes, I love it. Well, what would you say is the best advice you've ever received, or something that stuck with you that she always says? Or,
well, this is silly, but never get rid of your accessories, darling, because
it's fashion, baby.
Yeah. Everything old is new again.
That is such good advice, though, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when you invest in nice ones, too. Because everything
I wish I could think of something more profound.
No, that's okay.
That's what pops to mind. I like it.
That's light. She probably has said a lot of things that are just ingrained in your jargon and your mannerisms that you don't even realize that are part of you. Okay, some rapid fire questions.
Oh, okay.
How do you prepare for something hard? Like, ooh, it's going to be a big event or something at work or something scary maybe. Are you like a power pose person, or like do you say things to yourself in the mirror, or are you like pep talk on the car ride?
No, I think something just washes over me. I don't know what that is. You know, some would say it's like my cocktail face, like, oh, hello. And I think my mother had that. Okay. So I just sort of go into this, I just call it kind of going into my mode, you know?
Yeah.
I wish I could.
No, it's just locking into high gear. Profoundly. Like you can just like snap into it and get the job done, it sounds like.
Yes.
Is there a song, beauty tip, piece of jewelry that makes you think of your matriarch? Like, oh, she always wears this thing, or every time I smell this perfume, I think of my mom.
Oh my gosh. So, you know the song My Funny Valentine?
Yeah.
Have you heard it?
Yeah.
And so every time that's ever on, she says, when I was in college, I called the radio station and the guy was like, I just played that an hour ago. And he's like, if I play it again, will you not call anymore tonight? And she's like, okay. And so I made a playlist so that when my mom's with me in the car, I have the mom playlist with like songs that remind me of her.
I love that. That's so special. Music is so something that I always think of my mom too. I think music is so important. I feel like that, like I have a dad, my dad passed away a couple years ago, and I have a dad playlist of just like, I feel like whenever I'm on an airplane, I like want to just drink a little Sauvignon Blanc and cry a little. I don't know. It's looking at the clouds makes me think of, that's a little dark, but it's like, makes me feel, I don't know. Sometimes you just need a good cry.
Dark.
But
I have a whole funeral playlist.
Well,
for my funeral.
From a true event planner.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like, on my wedding day playlist, I was like, I have to make it. And then like my phone died because I put myself as the day of coordinator like you did at that Madison Square Garden event, apparently.
No,
and then
you did not.
Like, I know I had a wedding planner, but like I was doing too much. I think I needed to delegate.
Yeah.
And my phone died and
said, no,
I didn't know you then. I know. But then a friend thought he was like in charge of the aux and just put on a wedding playlist, and the songs that I was like, what is this? Excuse me. Is this Train? What I specifically said.
It's like,
no offense, Train. I just had a vision. I had
my mind.
I had the Beatles
up in here. You're like,
I was like,
no,
stop everything. But music is so powerful, and I feel like it's just like so many core memories are attached to it, especially with my grandma. I feel like every time I hear Mrs. Brown, you've got a lovely daughter. It's by Herman's Hermits. Makes me feel like my grandma, because we always used to listen to Cool 94.5 on the way to school and home. But I love that. That's so sweet. My funny Valentine. Well, how do you recharge, and how do you think your mom recharges?
Well, one of the things, and my mom is the same, so maybe I get this from her. And I did, this is like a therapy session, Courtney.
I love it.
Like,
Never thought of that.
Hard-hitting questions. No, I think, after I've done an event, I come home and it's like somebody has just sucked the life out of me because I'm so on the whole time. You come home and it's like
overstimulation.
Beyond.
Yeah.
And so even like when I'm flying back from New York the next day, and if I have like colleagues on the plane, I'm like, hey guys, like headphones, I need to
please don't even look at me. I need to be in my zone.
Yeah. And so for me, recharging sometimes is just as simple as sweatpants, snuggling with my dog, watching terrible television, give me Love Island. Give me.
I want the trash that I can feel so good about my life because these people are crazy.
Give me a housewife. Give me any of it.
I love it. It's delicious.
And I love that. And it's just, I'll go into my little cocoon and then reemerge when it's time for.
Yeah. It's so important to take that time.
Like Mariah for Christmas.
1,000%. It's so important to carve out that time because I feel like in this, we're finally getting, I don't know if we're getting past the age of the culture of burnout and grind culture, but like people are really focusing. Self-care is such a buzzword right now, but it's important. I think people need to figure out there's so many different kinds of rest and recharge. And I think it's very interesting to know what people do and don't do. And it's not a one size fits all situation. Yeah. One size fits all. Why couldn't I figure that out? But it's not like that. Everybody needs something else. I mean, some people are like, oh, I read a book so I can be transported, or I can just like watch trash TV in like a little cocoon with sweatpants. And it's like, put my phone on do not disturb and have some hours of just vegetated state. But,
do you know what's interesting? What you just said about coming to the end of burnout culture. I think, I made my bones in this town really during burnout culture. And I didn't even really think about that. And I remember the first time I was really like in the lead at my company in terms of being the head of my team and all those things. I had somebody that came and worked for me from a different company. And that was mass burnout culture. It's like, you're sick. Well, unless you're throwing up in a trash can, you need to be here. And for me, that wasn't quite my outlook. I figured you could go hard when it's time. And there are times that I will need you throwing up in the trash can, but this isn't one of those times. And so if you need to knock off a little early, we have our phones.
Take care of yourself.
We have, whatever. Go to the chiropractor. Go to the go to the dentist.
Yeah.
Go to your eye appointment. Do it. I don't need a shell of a person when it's go time. I need a whole, rested human.
100%.
And so that was my biggest sort of thing that I had to ingrain into anybody that came and worked for me, especially when I remember, and she's one of my best friends now. She came and she's like, so I have my dentist appointment, but I made it for Saturday. And I'm like, A, where did you even find a dentist that works on Saturday?
Exactly.
And B, why? Like, take the time and go.
Yeah.
She's like, well, I was like, no.
Just take care of yourself.
What's wrong with
2 hours. Just do it. It's not, you're not in the middle of your biggest day of the year, of course. I would be like strategic on when you're planning these things. But that is true, like empathetic leadership, I think, is like caring about your team. You're like, I don't, like you said, want shell of humans. I want people who are healthy and strong and feel empowered I'm trusting you as trusted employee on my staff to
Right.
take care of your stuff personally.
Get it
so
done.
you can bring me a 10 out of 10 when you're at work. Like, that's so important.
Mhm.
I feel like we could talk for hours and hours. Well, what is like is there like a beauty tip or like a designer that your mom wore her whole life or something that like, a product that you swear by that you want to plug? Like, oh, I definitely invest in X.
You know, first of all, oh my God, I look so
like gorgeous.
But I think my beauty kind of mentality at this point, and talk to me when I get older, and maybe my mentality will have changed.
Yeah.
But it's just to do like little subtle things. You know, keep up with laser. There's so many good things like microneedling with PRP.
Yeah.
Didn't know that was a thing. And it's something so great. It regenerates collagen. It's your own PRP. Do you know what that is? Have you ever done it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
And obviously lots of other little things, but just you know, try to stay yourself, because it's very easy, especially in LA. You turn around and
everyone has the same face.
I never 10 years ago tried different injections, and I was like, you know, it's like, okay,
find what works and what doesn't work.
It's not permanent.
Yeah, exactly.
We're not doing that. And just try to keep the essence of yourself.
That's great advice. Because it's like you can get lost with everybody in Hollywood. Sometimes I'm like, everyone has the same face of like a surprised, beautiful little kitten girl. But I'm like, you know what? So beautiful. I feel like investing in yourself and remaining true to your own face and self is so important. Okay. Final question. I know your mom's off gallivanting on a cruise in Europe right now, but if we could call her on the phone, what would you say to her and tell her?
It's going to make me cry. She just recently lost another friend. And this is sort of what's happening all of a sudden. And I definitely did call her, or she calls me on WhatsApp. So she's ahead of her time.
Yeah.
And I sort of did the ugly cry with her the other day, which is kind of rare for me, but when it happens, it happens.
You don't strike me as a crier, yeah.
And, you know, with her friend passing, it really shocked me, because it brings it so close to home and to her. And, you know, I tell her all the time how much I cherish her. I love her. I want to put her in a bubble and just protect her. And she said, you know, don't worry, honey, because she fell when she was in Rome and she got bruised, but she didn't break anything. And she said, I'm just like a rubber lady. I fall and then someone just picks me back up. And, you know, just like there was another woman and she was in a wheelchair with a broken leg. Like, not me.
She's like, don't worry about me. I'm young and just made of rubber.
But I tell her all the time. I do. So it's not even what I say. It's what do I say. So
it's great advice.
I just tell her how much she means to me. And she's taught me so much about kindness and empathy and love, and also being a badass bee.
Yeah.
I mean,
Emilia, thank you for your time. Thank you for being here. We could talk forever. I love it. It was so fun chatting with you. If you want to see more of Emilia, what's your Instagram handle if people want to follow along, or your LinkedIn?
At Purch76.
All right.
Is my Instagram.
Give her an Insta follow.
I don't even know my LinkedIn.
Well,
I guess just
Google.
My name.
Yeah. Just do a little Googling. It'll find.
Just Google.
Just Google
Image
it.
Search.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much. Happy holidays.
Yes.
And see you on Instagram soon. Hopefully in person soon.
I know. I miss you. So let's get together.
And now I want to meet Lee.
Oh,
what a woman when she's back.
Something.
All right. Squeeze me a palm for me.
I will.
Have a great day. Bye.
Bye.